Chair. So I'll just answer two of the questions that related to my presentation. The first one was a lot of equipment are there in the technologically advanced countries. They have comparative advantage and research results go there, and then the researcher comes back here to basically nothingness. So how do you counteract that? I noticed sitting on some of those international panels that a lot of people who propose to do work and ask for money from agencies do not put overhead cost. They don't put overhead costs. So how are you going to maintain your lab and travel around to conferences and do things after the project? Overhead cost, you are not held accountable to that. It's not itemized budget. So the principal investigator will keep a part of that. Usually for equity in the university or an institute, this is how we tend to split the overhead cost. About 20% to the principal investigator, about 20% to the department or dean's office, and then the office of the vice president for research and the presidency or vice chancellorship keeps the rest. So that's how you raise free money in the university, so that the principal investigator with a lot of talent and capacity to bring in people can have extra money to use without having to depend on itemized budget. Second, endowments. I noticed that many universities in Africa don't care about endowments. They don't do much to attract that. Even universities that have very prominent alumni, they just avoid them. For example, South African universities do well here because they went and asked Dangote for money, and Dangote gave them about $5 million US. You see, if you cultivate alumni or others that are rich, there are many oil company executives all over Africa, mining companies, many of them are coming in, hit them for endowment money. My lab would not have been as prominent as it became in the United States. At one point, we were the largest research institute on energy in the world. I helped build that up with endowment money from DuPont, Duke Energy, many other major companies in America. So that's what universities in Africa have to do. The second question, very quickly, brain drain. We have been advocating for the setup of the African Continental Research Foundation. Every country in Europe has a research foundation that funds research and does all these things. In the case of Europe, they have superimposed on the national research foundations a European research foundation, because this creates opportunity for them to harvest the intellect of Europeans and do things. You can have an idea. If there is nobody to fund it, forget it. But in Africa, you have South Africa. Nigeria has tried with TED Fund, but too little, too diverse, not good enough. Ethiopia is trying. I'm helping them. I was there. And a number of other countries are trying. But there needs to be an African Continental Research Foundation with the support of OAC, with the support of the African Academy of Sciences, so that every 2 years there's a call for proposals for Africans from companies, universities, to propose what to do to solve African challenges. Without that, it's only South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, Egypt, Morocco that will be able to do this. Small countries that survive only on loans from the World Bank. I don't want to name them, but we all know which ones they are. Cannot start research foundations. They're already having 90% of the annual budget supported by loans and grants. They are not going to do this. So the big countries need to get together and create this, and you'll see incredible harvesting of African intellect. Why is it that when they are here, they are not as productive I'm saying in generic terms, Africans are very productive. But when they go overseas, because of the equipment, the support, and the opportunities, they generally do a whole lot. That's how it needs to be. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Asante sana. I'm writing something down so that I don't forget. I would like to summarize. Number one, by thanking all of you for being patient, by thanking the panelists, the speakers, the presenters for their innovativeness, and to really request them that next time we link up, next year, both of you need to be there, and we need to have an occasion in which we are discussing some of the things that you have raised. Is that agreed? Very good. I would like for us to really resolve several things. You know, he just mentioned something very important. And we need to commit ourselves. And we need to be the first continent to do it. So let's do it. He is talking about a continental research foundation. Yes, that should be a resolution. We should be saying, in order to promote research in this country, especially collaborative research, let's ensure we establish, as Africa, an African research foundation. Where will the money come from? From all members of AU. And what is the amount that we are suggesting? Let's be very calm. We say 0.1% of GDP of each country. Give money. Begin next year. And that money is going to be coordinated and used for research through the African Academy of Sciences, the Nigerian Academy of Sciences, and all the other academies. Let me tell you what will happen. The African countries without academies will start them by next year when we do that. And it's a recommendation. And who says it can't be done? It can be done. The second resolution, by the way, I should say, is that okay? Very good. The second one is, at what stage we are recommending, really, we should resolve that science is part of us. So in terms of curricula, madam, we are saying that let the academies reflect and see if they can come up with a way in which the science curricula should begin as early childhood education. And that is the job for the African Academy of Sciences. The third one that we should reflect on and recommend is, we keep talking, and it was reflected here, 1% GDP to go for research. Let me suggest to all of us, let's be bold. Let's say it is not even 2%. In Kenya, we say 2%. We haven't achieved it, but we say 2%. Let us say, let our African countries move towards attaining 3% of GDP to go for research. And we just say it. And if you are talking to parliamentarians, you are talking to His Excellency the President or Her Excellency the President, whoever, you say, we were in Abuja, and the resolution was 3%, and we move on. But we move towards 3%. We don't say 3% immediately. I like the idea of centers of excellence in the continent. But let us say they are not centers of excellence owned by the host country. It is centers of excellence which are shared for use by scientists in the whole of Africa. That to me is very important. And the two final ones, you know, this morning I was really touched. I did not know that science has a history. And I have taught in universities for over 50 years. But I never taught the history of science. I'm a chemist. I should have taught a course on the history of chemistry. But I never did. So we are now saying, let us please do something when we revise our curricula, we ensure that it inculcates indigenous knowledge, science, and technology. Indigenous. And even if we have to establish 4 or 5 institutes of indigenous science and technology, let it be. And my final one, actually it is not a final one, it's just a question of inclusivity. Again, it was mentioned that as scientists, let us remember that as human beings, we have scientists, but we have economists, we have sociologists, we have others. In other countries, there is an education system. Those of you who may have been in the US, you know that. They call it liberal education. You get liberated when you don't just study physics and geology, but at the same time you study political science, you study philosophy, you study this and so on. So let's begin to reflect on our curricula in our universities to make it holistic. I think the term that the presenter used was holistic, but the one I prefer is holistic. That to me is extremely important as we move forward. We have lunch to take, and it's very important for us to take lunch. One day, if you have time, look for me and I will tell you about African indigenous food. The best that you should take, and the hour that you should take it. So let's not proceed too much because the hour is approaching, where beyond that, it will be supper, and that is not very good. So may I thank all of you, and may I request all of you that we pay special thank you to the presenters, and we are going to do it one way. If I say one, clap 5 times. If I say 2, you clap 4 times. If I say 3, you clap 2 times. If I say, and so on and so forth. So the first one is 5 times. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. 2. Okay, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2. The final one, now make it big. The final one. Thank you very much. Asante sana. Now, if any of you is a mathematician, if you can predict the sort of mathematics I was playing around with, I will give you an award. Think about it. Thank you very much and God bless you. I think we can go for lunch. Yeah, the photo. And the history of photography. Please look and find out a place called Wajir and another one called Turkana in Kenya and the mountains in Ethiopia. The origin of photography.